My name is Bob Mutarelli, and I'd like to welcome you to the Docuware webinar series. Today's discussion is going to cover Docuware's ability to help car dealerships increase their productivity and efficiency in a variety of areas. So whenever we speak to a car dealership about document management, it can be sales, finance and insurance, service, whatever area within the store. They all have their own unique set of documents as well as their own unique set of requirements that govern those documents. But before we get into the concept of document management within the dealership, let's take a step back and ask ourselves a question. What is it that slows the pace of your business? Okay, so if we were to look at the first instance here, it would be information. Now, it feels like information should always be right in front of you, and yet it's never really there. If you spend more than a minute looking for a specific document or a specific piece of information, and you're always coming up empty, it's going to become very frustrating for you. Now, the people that are involved with that, whether it's somebody in the sales force or the service team or even somebody in finance and insurance, if these resources are constantly being stretched, whenever they need information and they're frantically looking for it, they're usually wind up sacrificing one priority in order to get another one accomplished, and that's not a very productive way to do business. Security is another thing that is always brought up, and everybody's always concerned about security, obviously, but no one's really sure what the plan is, because whether it's compliance, security, privacy, and every year there's a new regulation coming up by the government, and the business is trying to react to that at all times in order to keep up with the compliance, the regulatory compliance. And then ultimately there are the tools, right? The tools and the technology that's supposed to help us is sometimes flat out painful to use. So you can't really keep track of what goes where anymore, and it always begs the question, why can't the technology that I use in the office be as easy to use as the technology I use at home, right? When I'm at home, I'm doing my online banking, or I'm doing online shopping. Those websites are very intuitive and easy to use. Why can't the business tools that I use in the office satisfy me in the same way? Well, let's look at that technology. That technology, on a broad scope, is very confusing, and all of the different technologies that are being represented on this screen now, let's face it, there's thousands of different concepts and tactics and buzzwords that are thrown at you constantly that are supposed to help you solve these challenges. And they all have merit, and all of them may even play a role in your business strategy today. But what I want to do is I want to focus on a few of them, specifically digitization, document management, and workflow automation. Now, these aren't just what Docuware does very well. It also represents the things that'll make your business and your store become smarter and faster and help regain profitability. So we'll start with digitization. This is, a lot of people call this paperless. This is the concept of a paperless environment. And that's a really good description. But the goal here is basically to move information into a digital format so that it can be more easily indexed and thus searched for and found later, accessed, shared, and secured as well. We don't have to belabor the problems that paper represents. Everybody's aware of that. We all know that it's expensive and it's slow. It's very prone to loss, and it's in general just a pain to deal with. Digitization drives efficiency, and this is what it's all about: cutting unnecessary costs from the bottom line. We're doing the same with fewer resources, and that's the definition of being efficient. So my guess is that you've done some cost-cutting measures already, and we all know there's a limit to how much you can cut, though. So if you're like most people, you're seeking the next level of what can be done. And that brings us to productivity. So productivity allows us to accomplish more with the same resources. So within document management, your team as a whole, basically the entire organization, makes finding documents much easier. Security is locked down, and team members can work on whatever device they have available. So whether it's a handheld, a PDA, a laptop, or a tablet-type device, or even a desktop PC, the instruments of their business are whatever's in front of them, because the Docuware solution is a web-based solution, so whatever has a capability of utilizing a browser is capable of utilizing Docuware. And the new level of information empowers productivity. So this productivity is what allows your staff, or the staff in general, to accomplish more with the same resources. It's not about cutting costs anymore, but it's ensuring that your workforce hours aren't lost on tedious and manual tasks. And our customers love this. They talk about it all the time. But what's really at stake is what really starts to move the meter on your organization is workflow automation. So now you can take all of that digital information and completely automate where it goes, who sees it, when it needs an approval, who gets notifications that the documents are available, how it's archived, and even when to dispose of it. So imagine how your workers only interact with information they need, and that's at the point of the decision-making process. So suddenly the team is not just productive, but they're effective, ensuring that everyone is executing the most important, valuable work that really drives the organization forward. So I guess the bottom line of what we just talked about now is that Docuware helps enable this efficiency, productivity, and effectiveness. Let's see how the situation changes now, or how the pace would change with your business. So this set of capabilities fundamentally shifts your business into this new pace. So first, from a world of lost and disorganized scattered information to one where documents and data are available at the points of decision. Automating the redundant and tedious task lets your team accomplish far more and focus on the things that really matter to the business. Security across the board is improved, from internal systems to document control, compliance regulations, all easily enforced and addressed. And ultimately, the heavy and complex software can now use technology on whatever device you choose with an experience designed to really get the job done. So with all of that said, let's take a look at Docuware in action. So let's take a look now at the Docuware interface. So I'm going to play a couple of different roles throughout the demonstration. Right now I'm connected to the system, and I'm using the Docuware interface as a sales rep might. So available is the Docuware dashboard, and I have a couple of different areas that I can focus on. But right now I'm going to look at something called My Open Deals. So these are deals that I'm working on. This is something called a task list. And what this lists for me is based on a specific criteria. In this case, I have 2 sales that I'm going to close today. One of them for Karen Tanners, one of them for Evelyn Johannes. And let's just say that Karen Tanners is in front of me. So I can open this document up. This is her sales contract. The document has been stored and indexed within Docuware. And she's come now to accept delivery of her vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and check her deal jacket to make sure that everything is appropriate. Everything I need from her is there. Because I mean, that's basic in any document management system. It should be able to tell me what documents I have, right? And if I come over to here and I do a search on the buyer name, and all I have to do is begin typing, and Docuware fills in the name for me. I can select it from the list, and I could really type in any of these fields or all of them if I choose to. But once I search the file cabinet, I'll see all the documents for the buyer name of Karen Tanners. So it's very easy to go and get this documentation. But again, a document management system is supposed to tell you what it has. But one of the unique things that Docuware has is a feature called Deficiency Manager. And what Deficiency Manager does is tell you what you don't have. So I can go ahead now and look at my list of open deals within Deficiency Manager. And in this case, if I were to open this list, I see that all of these documents are here. And I know they're here because they're not highlighted in red to tell me that they're not here. So with that said, I know that the customer's here. They provided me with everything I need. I have all the documents in my deal jacket correctly. I can go ahead and close this deal update the documents, and the deal is now closed. So it'll also disappear from my open deals now. So this is a dynamic and living system that tells me everything I need to know. Let's do the same thing now with Evelyn. She has come in, she wants to accept delivery of her vehicle. So I'll go back and I'll run that same kind of search, only instead of looking for Karen, obviously I'm going to look for Evelyn. And I see I do have a lengthy list of documents for her deal. I'm going to go ahead and check the deficiency manager, but I am missing something. There's an odometer certification that's missing. Then let's say that she's bringing me that document today. How would I get that document into Docuware? Well, quite frankly, all I need to do is use a scanner, whether it's a multi-function scanner that's out on the sales floor, on the showroom floor, or a desktop scanner that's sitting at my desk and connected to the network. So all I have to do is put that document on the scanner, scan it in, and if I come over here and refresh my list, the new document appears at the top. I can check with Deficiency Manager, and yep, certainly I have now all the documents I need. I can proceed just like I did with Karen and close this deal and deliver the vehicle. So the bottom line here is that that's how easy it is to get documents into Docuware and index them, because we're reading these documents, we're understanding what they are, we're taking specific pieces of information off of them and using those values to index the document within Docuware so that we can find it very easily later. So let's take another step. That was a simple scan and store and retrieve kind of a scenario. Let's go look at a different scenario. Let's go take the role now of Peggy Jenkins. Peggy's a service advisor. So let's say she's working in the service department, and someone has come in now. This guy, Brian Haggerty, has come in now, and he's going to bring his car in for service. Now, this happens to be an example of a very popular dealer management systems reception screen where certain information is provided to the service advisor, and then they would, at this point, go ahead and initiate the pre-write check and go and take a walk around the vehicle. What I'm going to do first is, this screen is designed now to accept when the inspection is done to move on to the next step. But before I do that, you'll notice there's a Docuware VIN search button that I'm going to execute now. And what this is going to do is go out to Docuware and bring back a list of every document that we have stored in the file cabinet, in the electronic file cabinet, for this particular vehicle. Not for this particular owner, for this particular vehicle, because as a service rep, I might not be interested in just the repairs on this vehicle or the documentation on this vehicle since this owner's had it. So I'll go back to the actual VIN number and see the entire history we have for this document, for this vehicle. And what makes this unique is that I'm not limiting myself to only the information that is stored within the document management system. That we'd expect the pre-writes and the repair orders and maybe even the invoices to be part of the document management system search as well. But now I have things like the Carfax. I have a battery test. I have a state inspection information. All of this information was put in and indexed based on at least one of the simple ways that we saw earlier of using a scanner or maybe a printer or an import process to bring these documents into Docuware and index them accordingly. So now that I have this car and I'm about to begin my pre-write check, I'll go ahead and print the pre-write ticket using the Docuware printer. And what this is going to do is this is actually going to initiate a little bit of a workflow, but we'll get into that in a second. But let's say that this pre-write has now been printed, quote unquote, because when I say printed is because the Docuware printer is going to intercept it, and knowing what this document is and being able to read it, it's going to present this document into my tray. So we see on the left side that here's the pre-write ticket that I just read in. And what I'll do now is I'll open it in a new viewer. And what I'm trying to symbolize here is, let's say we open this on some type of a tablet device, whether it's a Microsoft Surface Pro or an iPad or something that supports a browser that I can connect to the system and bring this pre-write ticket in front of me. because now I'm going to go out and I'm going to walk around the vehicle. And I guess in the old days, quote unquote, I would have put this piece of paper, printed this piece of paper, put it on a clipboard, and then done my walk around the vehicle and make notations on here and have the customer sign it. Well, I'm going to do the exact same thing now. I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to mark, there's a little scratch here, or there's a little scratch here. I can make a handwritten, quote, like text notation, crack in windshield, right here on the document. And then ultimately what I can do is have the customer, either by virtue of his finger on the device, a stylus, or even a Topaz signature pad device, have the customer's signature put electronically right on the document. I'll put that document back into my tray and then store the document into the file cabinet. Now, this store dialog has been pre-populated with information I read off, or more appropriately, Docuware has read off of the pre-write ticket. The annotation, the indications of the scratches, as well as the signature are all now part of the document. I can go ahead now and store this document. But that's not the end, right? Because that's really just the beginning. Now an automated workflow has kicked off. Now what's happened is a couple of things. The repair order is automatically generated once the pre-write is done, as well as, let's take a quick run over and log back in as the sales rep again, Fred. Fred's going to get an email. So what happened is the workflow that was initiated by this process actually has logic associated with it. So what that logic does is it interprets information on that particular pre-write, and it sends an email to the appropriate sales rep saying, hey, this customer just brought his car in for service. He has got a vehicle that meets our criteria for profitable equity. And we would like you to go out and talk to him and maybe see about him trading the vehicle in so we can get it on our lot and then make a sale of a new vehicle. So the logic isn't limited at this point to only the service department. So the document actually takes on a life of its own. So the repair order has been generated. That also is involved in the process of a workflow. And now we're going to check out and see what the repair dispatcher, Mr. Simon Stone, does. The dispatcher at this point is going to be notified there's a new repair order and a vehicle needs to be addressed. The vehicle's been pre-written, checked in, and needs to be addressed. And you'll see up here, he has got a task assigned to him. And if I look at that task, it says he needs to assign a technician to this particular vehicle or this particular repair. Now the process at this point is very fluid. It certainly can be personalized to meet the needs or the type of work that's done in any store. I realize that at this point he may print this and then put it in one of those plastic pieces, plastic sleeves, and drop it on a technician's workstation. But at this point he's going to assign it to Ford. The task will disappear from his task list because he no longer has to address it, and he can check his lists here. He has a couple of different views or dashboards where he can see what's going on within his group, how many reservations he's got, how many fleet tasks are outstanding. All of these things are made to provide him with the information he needs in order to be effective and efficient at his work. So we'll go now and take a look at Brian Ford's login. Now, again, the technicians, and not every technician in every store has the availability of a workstation. So what in this case, we'll assume that he does, and if not, as I said, it could have been hand-delivered by the dispatcher. But in this case, Brian does have a workstation where he's informed that he has a new task, both as part of his list and his assigned tasks. He can open up this particular repair order, take a look at it. It's stamped so that we know when and who assigned it. Another thing he can do is he can take a look. Let's say he's not sure what he's doing or if he's got the parts. He can look at the linked documents associated with it. So any document associated with that repair order number is now listed here. And sure enough, he's got a pre-write ticket, he's got the repair order, and he's got the pick ticket. So he can go ahead and look at the pig ticket to make sure he's got the proper parts he needs to do the repair, or in this case, the oil change. He does the work, and then he can now certify that this, or confirm that this repair is complete. But again, what happens next? Now, normally, once the repair is considered complete, at this point he should, mark up or do something on this particular repair order, and then send it back to the dispatcher or send it back to the service advisor. But in our case, because we're using an automated workflow, we're going to take this document and send it to the service advisor directly ourselves. So back to Peggy Jenkins, where she now has, again, a new task, which basically tells her the repairs are complete on this particular repair. She can go ahead and print the invoice. So she produces and prints an invoice, and again, we'll just intercept this the same way we do with the repair orders and with the pre-write tickets using Docuware Printer. And she can now acknowledge that she has produced the invoice for this, and it's now removed from her task list. So without ever having to move a piece of paper from one desk to another, we've assigned a task, we've completed tasks, and we moved them on to the next responsible person. Elizabeth Cash is our cashier. So we'll go ahead and check her login. She will, of course, have a new task assigned, and there's also an email associated with this identifying that a new invoice has come in for her, because perhaps she doesn't live her life in Docuware. So we'll go ahead and take a look at her tasks, and she's got 2 tasks right now. The reason being, she has to collect payment from this particular customer, so she can acknowledge that the document or the transaction is paid in full. And the other task she has is to book this non-warranty transaction. So there is, again, the logic of the workflow can determine if a transaction or if a repair is a non-warranty. It knows that we need to get paid this amount of money from the customer and pay it directly to us. Whereas a warranty repair would require the financial department to bill the manufacturer so that we can get reimbursed from the manufacturer, or in those some cases though that require splitting. There's a split transaction that part of the payment is paid by the customer, and then the rest of it needs to go to the manufacturer, and all of that can be tracked within Docuware. So part of closing out this transaction, she needs to book this transaction into her ERP system. This becomes a bit of a financial endeavor, but at this point she goes ahead and imports, because Docuware has created an import folder that allows her to take these transactions from, in this case it's just an Excel file, and bring those documents in so that she can look at them within her ERP system. So we look at these expenditure vouchers for non-warranty repair, and there's Brian Haggerty's at the bottom. And she can go ahead and, using that same Smart Connect technology, click on the button necessary to go ahead and review that particular invoice. Then she can come back here and mark this invoice as booked, and she can now go home confident that she's completed her task for the day. So I guess the bottom line is, now that we've gone through this process, let's think about a lot of the mouse clicks that we've seen so far. We looked at a sales rep who was able to look at his open items, looking at his open deals, and allowed him to make sure that he had all the documents he needed for a specific transaction, identify the things he didn't. He got emailed to tell him that there was a prospective customer with a profitable equity vehicle. The service department, from the service advisor to the dispatcher to the technician to the service advisor back to the financial people, this life, the documents take on this life that rotates them from position to position until the conclusion of the transaction. So all of this is kind of made popular or made possible by the Docuware workflow system. So a little bit about Docuware now. We're in 70 countries and 16 different languages. Well over 175,000 satisfied users, as well as a very dedicated customer success team. We have partners all over the world that help with our business, as well as well over 1,000 certified Docuware experts. So with that, I will leave you guys a couple of minutes if you want to put some questions into the chat window. If not, I thank you for your attention and your time, and look forward to speaking to anybody soon.